Lexi,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing very, very, very well.
That's awesome.
It was a lovely Sabbath, a lovely
Absolutely,
day so far,
as usual.
as usual. A lot of folks have been blessed by our ministry here. We thank God for that. You're looking well rested, though.
Oh, it's because I changed my hair.
So this evening we're doing something
Different.
different.
We're testing it out.
We're testing it out.
Yeah.
We have a panel here, and also we'll be having our chill room.
Yeah.
The chill room will be rotating with some young people, and the panel will be answering questions coming from the chill room.
Yeah.
What's the topic again?
We're talking about social justice. We're going to be talking a little bit about racism. We've definitely got some interesting guests.
Yeah. Who do we have?
Oh gosh, I don't remember all the names.
I know we have a lawyer, Mr. Osborne. A pastor.
Yes, we do.
He's the executive secretary of the conference, Pastor Yakov. And we have our own youth elder here,
Jabari Lindsay.
Elder Jabari Lindsay.
Yep.
And we have Pauline. She's someone who is very passionate about social justice.
Okay.
She will be coming on set also. So we're in for a very, very interesting time.
Yeah.
Guess what? This is UpSurge.
We're the Surge.
It's always up. Real people, real conversation, real questions, real answers. UpSurge, where the surge is always up.
I'll tell you. And welcome back to UpSurge, where the surge is always up. I'm here with our panel. So I'm just going to ask each of our guests to briefly introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are. We can start off with Mr. Osborne.
My name is Osborne Bongo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lawyer. I lived here for the past 27 years.
Wow.
Prior to that, I was a professional accountant for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Senior auditor at Cancer Agency. So I do a lot of litigation.
Okay.
What it simply means is that folks with issues at work, issues on the street with police, on a plane, Canada Customs,
Okay.
Canada Border Services, I do immigration law, medical malpractice, I do human rights law.
Got it.
The whole area of matters that impact my community.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I do. So,
Okay.
so racial profiling, anti-blackness, and all those issues, issues that I deal with daily.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here with us. The next.
My name is Jabari Lindsay. I'm a member of Meadowvale Church. Day job is I work for the City of Toronto. I manage an Ontario Works office where we distribute finances into the community for folks who are seeing financial need. I previously worked with youth who were self-disclosed gang members who are looking to leave said gang.
Okay.
And I've worked with youth for over 20 years in variety of spaces,
Mhm.
but primarily those who are facing issues with criminal justice.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. And last but not least.
My name is Jacob, and I was Pastor Jacob, pastor, so presently I work as executive secretary of the Conference.
Okay, thank you for being here with us. So today's issue we are touching on is social justice. So I guess I'll just start off by asking you, Mr. Osborne, to define justice.
It is a term that depends upon what side of the aisle, as we say, you're on.
Mhm.
So justice actually contemplates equity and fairness
Okay.
for the participants.
Mhm.
At times, as a lawyer, the justice that might be for my client might not be the justice that the defendant sees.
Okay.
So it's quite a term that, as lawyers, we say that, and you might have heard this before,
Mhm.
that we don't have a justice system, we have a legal system.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times people don't come out of that courtroom with what they consider to be justice.
Okay.
So it's quite a challenging term,
Mhm.
because a lot of times we do not believe that the term itself plays out in people's lives.
Yeah. Wow. And that's something really deep that we should probably touch on later and on our panel. I'm just going to jump to Jabari. I just want to ask you to define social justice.
Equally as difficult as
Yeah, I
justice.
know, these big terms.
But I think, and getting stuck in a definition may not be the best way to go, but I'm going to follow my colleague's fairness comment. But if we think about from a social arena where there's multiple people thinking about fairness and equitable distribution of anything, whether it be labor or money or economics, etc., social justice is the application of not a legal system, but a system of us kind of applying a measure of fairness amongst all of us. So where the justice term may not, hit the mark, social justice kind of extends it to if we were all to talk about a loaf of bread and how much we deserve of that bread,
Yeah.
that conversation would be social justice. And if there is a unfair distribution of that bread, then you get people starting to fight for social justice. So I guess it extend the definition a little bit more, yeah?
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going to jump to you, Pastor Jacob. And if you could just tell us a little bit about what does the Bible say about social justice?
The Bible, especially the New Testament, we hear a lot of things from Jesus.
Mhm.
His followers. Jesus, he started his ministry after being tempted in Jezreel. He came out, and his first sermon was addressing social injustice.
Mhm.
If you read Luke chapter 4, and you will see that he announced that he is here to proclaim the good news, the gospel to the poor.
Mhm.
He is there to preach the gospel and also to proclaim freedom
Mhm.
and to live liberty to those oppressed.
Yeah.
So I believe that especially Jesus' message,
Mhm.
his message to address injustice and really to bring some fairness.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for giving these definitions. I know these are very broad topics that we're touching on, but I think that getting the definitions out there are definitely very important. Before we continue, I asked that before this, with our AY group, we had made statements about creating safe space. And I just want to say, going forward in this conversation, we're creating a safe space, whether it be here where we're filming or whether that be online. For those folks that are watching, creating a safe space is very important for us, a space where people won't feel judged and no one will feel attacked. So going forward in our conversation, I think that that's really important. So I guess I want to jump back into, we've been talking about social justice throughout the world. The news, we turn it on, everything is about social justice. It's about, ever since the news of George Floyd's death, we've been talking about these issues. So, I mean, obviously we have George Floyd's name, but what are some reasons that I guess I would ask you all individually, why are you so passionate about the topic? Why do you do the work that you do?
Well, I self-identify, I'm a black man,
Mm-hmm.
and my own life experiences in this country since 1974.
Mm-hmm.
My life has been punctuated with facing anti-Baptism. I couldn't get the job that I wish. I couldn't get into a program that I wish to get into. I ended up, I wanted to be in the private sector as a lawyer, I ended up in government. And so they had, my life has reflected an exclusionary policy of that is attributed to anti-Baptism.
Yeah.
In addition, I spent a lot of time in Jane Finch corridor for many years, volunteering as a baker. I saw the inequities. I saw police officers entering single-family homes without warrant. I saw all kinds of what I consider to be evil violations of people's rights. And as a result, I then decided to law school so that I could learn to speak Chinese.
Yeah.
That was it. So my passion, plus, I come from a background, I'm a pastor's son back in St. Vincent. And so my impetus is always to ensure that the vulnerable, the disadvantaged, they have their say and be able to be in a position to right the wrongs as much as I could. Consequently, human rights, regulation law, and all that sort of stuff. So that's my passion.
Okay.
Is this sense that all of us are God's children. All of us are equal. We're all on the same level. And that's why I teach my children. Well, that, yes, their father is a doctor. The father is a lawyer. From my first situation, their mother is a physician. And so my conversation with my children was always, you know better, you know worse than anyone.
Yeah.
Because that is important.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to hop over to our chill group. They're going to give us a little bit of a debrief of what we've talked about so far, and then we're going to come back to our panelists with some questions. All right?
Yeah. Check, testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2. Can you hear me, Lexi? Testing, 1, 2, Lexi, can you hear me? Can you?
I can hear you.
1, 2, you can hear me?
Yes, I can.
So we are here in the chill room, chilling in the wilderness,
Wow.
in the forest.
Wow.
I'm here with 3 very intelligent young people. We have been having a very interesting conversation over here in the chill vineyard. All 3 young people are young folks from Meadowvale. I just want them to quickly just tell the viewers your names, and then we'll talk about what we have been discussing.
Alexi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, she can hear me. Okay, my name is Jillian. My name is Jada.
My name is DeJour.
De jour. So we have been talking about this social justice situation, and the question that I have for the 3 of you is, how do you feel as Black people with what is going on, young people with what is going on in the world right now? How do you feel?
I think originally I was feeling very overwhelmed towards the end of May, just overwhelmed with everything that was going on. Also feeling a lot of anger, but also just feeling a lot of motivation.
You felt overwhelmed. You're feeling overwhelmed, a bit of anger.
And motivation.
Okay.
Motivation to get people involved, spread awareness.
To say something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So just how I've been feeling about everything that's been happening in terms of injustices. It's hard to see. It's very disturbing and upsetting. And I think, as Jillian said, overwhelming would be the feeling It's like something new every time, you know, you turn on social media.
The news is just depressing when you see it.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, when I saw the video with the gentleman standing on the, you know, the police standing on the brother's neck, like, it, even as a pastor, it was, at some point, I felt upset, right? So I could understand, I could imagine where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, also to just, you know that people could just be so hateful, have so much hatred, is just, you know, for me, I mean, I try my best to be a great person, so I can't even imagine, like, having that much hate for someone, so, yeah.
De jour.
I think for me, it became both, I guess the key word is overwhelming, but also it showed me the amount of confusion. And in that confusion, it also showed me exactly what the world is made of. Is a bunch of people who are influenced by the people around them. And sometimes, especially with social justice, it becomes how the victim cannot be heard, but as well as the people who's supposed to hear don't understand what they're supposed to hear.
Wow.
So it's becoming a big ball of people shouting over themselves.
Wow.
So I think at some point it becomes just a big confusing ball of information that you can't really detangle by yourself. You have to kind of educate yourself to understand it.
So I know we have a question. Julian, do you want to ask the panel this question? Julian, we have a question here in the chill room. You could hear us, Alexi?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, Julian, go ahead, please, and ask the panel the question that we were discussing here.
Our question is for a non-person of color, or even also for people of color who aren't educated and aren't aware of the issues and the history behind it, what would you suggest be the first steps for them to educate themselves, and what resources can they use to educate themselves?
Okay, Lexi, that's it from the chill room for now. See you in a few.
All right. And we're back. I'm back with the panel. Did everybody hear the question that was posed in the chill group? I will. So our chill group is asking, as a person of color, as a non-person of color, and even people of color, how do we go about educating ourselves on issues of social justice? What are resources that we can use? And how do we go about that? So before we get into that question, before we dive in, we have another panelist joining us. I just want to ask you to briefly introduce yourself for our viewers.
Thanks for having me. I'm Pauline Christian. I'm Pauline Christian. I'm the previous president of the Black Business and Professional Association.
Wow, that's amazing.
Longest serving president. And I have a passion for the human race. So being privileged to be placed in a position as that, I use it as a position to further Black professionals, Black scholars. My church was a place that I could pivot from because I had a good base.
Okay.
So my church was very important. And Osborne will tell you that in almost everything I did, my church was in there. I saw it as an opportunity to show how great our race is, even though I am the executive producer of the Martin Luther King celebration for the last 21 years.
Wow.
So I believe in his vision in bringing the community together and uniting the community as a force, and not so segregated and separated by our races, because I really do think that we're like a flower garden. Right?
Yeah.
Each person or each flower has a place,
Yeah.
and it brings the beauty out in it.
Absolutely.
So, and I'm a business owner, and work with Osborne a lot. We love his vision. I bring him all over our conference because you're not going to find a lot of lawyers with a big practice as is that is going to give so much to the community.
Absolutely.
And I'm very proud to be here. Got the call from Devadney through the pastor, Duncan, and I had another event today, but I kind of put it aside and before it.
We're happy to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. We're just going to jump right back into the question. And Pastor Jacob, I'm not picking on you. I want to hear your opinion as an ally. Why do you think, or how would you go about educating yourself, or even people around you, on issues of social justice?
Yes, thank you very much. This is a very good question. And glad to be here as well as talk about very important topic.
Yeah.
Just maybe the background about myself. I come from a communist country, former Yugoslavia.
Okay.
So I was raised in a communist country, a country that is a social communist country.
Okay.
BK and experienced bullying, discriminated by my friends, teachers, and I understand how it is to feel that you are not being accepted.
Yeah.
And even not going accepted into school and then being disqualified to enter some universities because of that. So it was tough. It was tough. But I cannot imagine what my friends are going through. When I came to Canada, to be honest, before I was just reading that, watching the news and reading in the books, but when I came in Canada as an immigrant, I experienced another discrimination as somebody who didn't speak English and no jobs for you, no experience, nothing. It was hard. I worked 3 jobs at one point.
Wow.
It was very hard so a lot of really hardship. But when I went to U.S. and when I traveled with a friend of mine who is Western Indian, and I remember we were at airports and security checking, and I was cleared easily, and they started giving him hard time. I reacted immediately. I was almost surprised with how I reacted, and he's begging, please don't do it. I said, no, this is not fair. And he says, please, just let it go. I said, no, I cannot let it go. I was shocked to see. I witnessed myself. So then when I started working as a pastor here in Canada, I'm telling you, sometimes you cannot learn all about this social injustice, social justice from the news, from media.
Yeah.
So you need to really go there. And so what I happen to be, I will go and talk to my neighbors. And then when I moved to Barrie Church, to Pastor Barrie, I really try to connect to a social worker there.
Yeah.
To somebody who is in the city, working frontline.
Yeah.
So he took me around to all these shelters. He showed me the way. So from him, I was able to learn really what it needs in this city. And I was able to understand the social portfolio on that community. So you really need to do a deeper job.
Yeah.
You need to have your own experience, but leave it aside and try really to live with people where you are and ask questions.
Yeah.
Those people that are involved frontline.
Absolutely. I don't know if somebody else from our panel wanted to jump into that question. How would a non-person of color go about educating themselves and being aware of social justice issues?
I'd like to add to that.
Yeah.
I think that a white person did not make the decision to be born white. A white person who's a privileged person, and many white people are privileged because of their skin color.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. I think the cheapest university out there is Google, right?
Yeah.
And then we have media, news. So we keep our ear to the ground, and I think that one needs to be intentional and deliberate.
Yeah.
If you really want to know about what Black people are going through, and Pastor Jacob, I see him as a brother, right?
Yeah.
I'm really impressed. He's an advocate for humankind and the special, because as he told you, the airport situation. But I think it's also important. And I think I just feel privileged to be here around now.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a community activist, and I believe the importance of having equity amongst everyone. And the things that I endure, even coming up corporate Canada and made my way up.
Yeah.
And some people saw it as me being privileged. And then working in the community, I realized that there needs to be an understanding for us as a people. Now we have to strategically develop a plan to move forward.
Yeah.
And I think this time, this is the best time in my life that I can live. Because I think there is a silver lining and there's an opportunity to make an impact.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the dial move for a long time. Some of us, my brother with the city hall, you get the positions up. But at the same time, what I realized, and being seated in a privileged position as the president of a Black national organization, I see where when we are seated in positions of influence as Black people, I find that we forget why we're there. We think it's because we can add it to our resume. We can be viewed as a part of the upper, rank. And we forget that we're here to provide privileges and opportunities for the underserved and the vulnerables, right? And we tend to forget. So for me, and what I like, again, because I work closely with Osborne, we tend not to forget that. There's nobody and I have a lot of lawyer friends and judge friends, and nobody that gives of himself as this man. I have problems with people that even as a part of the presidency, having the 5 big banks of Canada, right, sponsoring us. And most times the people who are pushing to give us more funding are not our kind.
Yeah.
So I think work needs to be done within us, especially people like us who are given privileged positions to move that dial. And we have to form allies with the people who made the system. We didn't create the system.
Absolutely.
The system isn't broken. The system was created to make sure that we are marginalized.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that we form allies with influencers, people in government. So it's one thing, to make our statement, but we can't dog too much because it's human tendencies.
Yeah.
If we dog too much, then we can't get into the boardroom to talk to them. And I know even being at BBP, I'm sorry, I don't want to prolong this, but I have a passion for this in terms of strategizing and being intentional as to how we are going to form allies to get the system changed.
Yeah.
Because we can't change it. It has to be done as a collaborative. So we need to take a collaborative approach. We need to make our claim, but we also need to make friends with our white brothers and sisters, our cousins.
Absolutely.
To take action on this.
Absolutely. And what you said is so important. I feel like the first step is always having that conversation, opening up that conversation. And just quickly, I want to bounce to Jabari on how we start to have that hard conversation.
So what is your question?
How do we start to have these conversations?
Well, I think the panelist has done a good job speaking to that. But I think what I'm going to take from my colleague is you have to be courageous. I spoke to one of my key conversations I ever had was with one of the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement 3 years ago, and I asked her, what could I in City Hall, as a person of color, as a younger person trying to make a move, what could I do from the halls? And her key answer was just be more morally courageous. So it wasn't like a do this, do that, do this playbook. It's just when you have an opportunity, say something. Don't think you made it and don't say anything. Don't think if you don't push, they're not going to listen. I've been around all of these folks for a long time. I'm not going to be the noted person, but the community knows who I am because I'm always kind of in the back poking and pushing and helping people to kind of step to that corner. But I think being morally courageous is the first step. And the second piece is just making sure that you're truly listening to what's going on. Because the question was, what do we need to do? Well, the answer is we need to listen. We need to hear that it's an opportune time. We need to hear that there are people that we may look at and say, not part of the community. But when you hear the example he gave from home,
Yeah.
he's actually got the same lived experience as we do.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's really about listening and kind of hearing what the next step is.
Yeah.
If that's the easiest answer to the question is just be morally courageous.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. We're going to take a short break. This is UpSurge, where the surge is always. Oh, we're going to bounce back to the chill room. We're bouncing back to the chill room. Actually, folks, I'm sorry.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yep.
Lexi?
Yep. Are you there?
I could barely hear you.
I can barely hear you.
Hello?
Hello?
You hearing me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, okay. So, we are here chilling in this chill room, and we have been having such a great time. We listening to the panel. I don't know what's the name of the lady on the panel. What's her name? Polly. I mean, she.
Be dropping points.
Dropping points.
Points all over. Yes.
So, what we've been talking about, right? This that we're doing now, the conversation that we're having. Is your mic on?
Yes.
Okay. The conversation that we're having. Do you think we're making any progress?
Okay, so to be honest with you, the time that we are in currently in 2020 is we have unfortunately have a perfect storm in which we are all at home. We are all not bogged down with work. So when something as injustice happen, we are all tuned in and on one page as it relates to making a change. And we are seeing that change from a legislative standpoint, as well as we've seen corporate companies are making a stand to say, hey, we're allies with our people. And because of this, we are directive in terms of asking for the things that we want. So from the protest that has been worldwide, not just here in North America, but across the seas, to
This viral protest.
the viral protesting. So we're seeing change, and we want, it's almost like now that we've seen a little, we want more and we want real change. So to that, I have my own people here who can say more on that.
When it comes to change, it's really important to talk about, but I feel like some of these seriously important changes that are being put in place are being shadowed by, I don't want to say the superficial performative changes, like these shows characters, they need to be played by black people, and the Aunt Jemima thing, that stuff that we're just trying to see people.
Some statues were pulled down in some places though. Like, what do you think about that?
Sorry?
Some statues. I saw some statues being pulled down.
I think that's necessary. I think that's necessary. These are people that didn't represent good, godly characters in their lives, and we have statues for glorifying people that don't need to be glorified or romanticized at all. Tearing them down, I feel like, is a big part of the change.
Cool.
So,
we have a question coming your way, Alexi. We have a question coming your way. Listen out now for this question.
I guess this kind of plays off of Mackenzie as well, and what she said about the whole performative action thing. The biggest thing that we want to see is real change. We want to see legislation. We want to see policies. We want to see city councils, everything. So for us as young people, we kind of want to know, where do we start, or where do we fit in this whole process? We want to know, like, how exactly we can make moves and help perpetuate this change in a more productive way.
Okay. So, Lexi? Yeah? This is what we have been doing, chilling in the chill room, talking, asking questions. I know you're comfortable in the studio where you are, but we are here chilling in this chill room in the wilderness. I guess I don't know. So over to you.
All right. And we are back. So the question was posed in the chill room: how do we, as youth, not just enact performative activism, but actually make steps towards real change? I'm going to direct this question first to Mr. Osborne. Just give me your opinion.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the question. Because I've been saying this since May the 15th when Floyd, my brother Floyd was killed, and I call it the uprising occurred across this world. I am of the view, and I will remain of the view, that we have a responsibility as the adults in the room to forge the way for kids or children.
Absolutely.
And so the question of activism from the youth side, I think that in itself would be something that I would encourage in terms of self-identification, in terms of they understanding that their power lies within them, that the power of feeling important, the power of, because I have seen, I do a lot of, as Pauline will tell you, I do a lot of advocacy in schools.
Yeah.
Where our children are held back, or children are discriminated against. I do advocacy for black principals, black vice principals, and black teachers also, as they suffer from the effects of anti-black racism.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've had to instill in a lot of young clients that I've had is this sense that, as I indicated earlier, you are as valuable as anybody else. And so for me, I would hope that our black kids or the youths have a new sense of who they are, that they are important as everybody else.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the transformation that is occurring, and how do we, and I know I didn't comment on this earlier, how do we, let's say a non-black, a non-minority person, how do we go about educating them? Back in law school, we had this huge debate about whose responsibility it was to educate white people about our black history.
Yeah.
And there were positions about they should go and learn it. And what has struck me since that horrific lynching of George Floyd is this universal uproar, black, brown, pink people realizing that we're all humans.
Absolutely.
We're all on this earth as humans. We feel, we perish together, and so on. So for me, there has been a, just as Pauline said, this is the best time of my life. It's one of the highest point of my entire 66 years of living.
You're that old?
Yeah. So it's a moment to run with.
Yeah.
It's a moment that, and I think I have never seen a big issue with respect to youths, because I have always believed in the Martin Luther King dream that the young people are going to change where we're going to go.
Okay.
In terms of the extrapolation as to where we're going to go, because white kids have black friends and Chinese people have black friends, and it begins with the youths. I am proud to see a lot of youths energized around the idea of linking in, and I agree with Pauline 100% that we need allies. I'm jumping all over the place because there's so many.
There's so much to talk about.
There's so many facets to it.
Yeah.
We need allies, and the power, the source of the power rests elsewhere, and we need to plug in to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I just want to play off of that a little bit, especially for our young viewers, for those that are in the chill room, hope they're listening. But for youth who are definitely entwined in social media, how do we go about avoiding performative activism through social media? You can always put it out there. You can post. I remember there was Blackout Tuesday, and everybody posted a black screen. How do we go about stopping this performative activism that happens through the screen, and then you live your life like nothing's happening? How do we go about changing that? Yeah.
So 5 years ago, worked with a group of young people, And what I got them to do was to choose their particular issue and then work backwards to the policy that created the issue in the first place.
Okay.
So, for example, one of the guys in the group, he had did 4.5 years in jail and didn't understand why his particular jail never offered any programs, but his friend's jail did. And it turned out that he went to a remand center, so under 2 years, even though he did 4.
Okay.
You can work that out later. And then some of his other friends, they were sentenced to 4 years, so they went right to the max jails where they have regularized programs and et cetera.
Got it.
So he began and is still working with another young woman I know called Nikki Knows. They're still working on reformative programs to create programs for people that are in remand centers, because they don't focus on remand centers.
Okay.
So instead of, you can still do the performative justice, which is awesome, but if you don't have like a guiding light,
Yeah.
like what's the thing in your shoe, then you end up, okay, today I'm fighting against the Peel District School Board, and next I'm going after the justice system, and next I'm going over here, because there's so many areas of justice.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of make a decision, because there's thousands of young people out there.
Absolutely.
Make a decision of what your thing is and go after that.
Yeah.
Like my colleague said, he had originally, and I don't know if everyone heard it, I want to make sure everyone here, I originally wanted to figure out how to sue the cops.
Yeah.
And that pushed him to become a lawyer.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a target that you have out there. What's my thing? What's my push?
Yeah.
That'll make you make that step away from, I'm not sure if everyone understands what you're saying, just posting on social media and thinking, okay, I've done what I need to do today.
Absolutely.
Right? Like that next step is, what is my actual cause? So the change of the streaming in grade 9 students has been the cause for many folks before this year.
Yeah.
Many folks have been fighting for that.
Yeah.
And some folks think the uprising or the fight for social justice this year is what made that change. No, people have been listening and hearing, but now there's 20, 30, 40 years we've been talking about this Peel District School Board problem.
Yeah.
And you had the right leader that said, okay, I'm going to give you this one because I'm losing over here. Let's be honest. I'm losing over here, so I'm going to give you this one. And that's the right one.
Yeah.
But, I have friends that went through the Peel District School Board and friends who have been through it.
Yeah.
Our parents came here and we went through the system. So we had to go through the system and then turn out to fight the system as well.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, once you make a decision, just my own opinion.
Yeah.
Make a decision about what is the pebble in your shoe and go after that.
Yeah.
And then, if I could just finish this piece, educate yourself and get into the system.
Yeah.
My sister said it beautifully. Become a leader.
Yeah.
Get into the system so you can then be at that table when they're about to say, man, should we do streaming? You're sitting at the table saying, no. You're not outside in the rally saying, please, please, please.
Yeah.
So I've been working at the city for 11 years now, and I say to people all the time, I don't fight the anti-black racism fight because I'm a black man. I fight it because partially I do, but I fight it because it's my responsibility as a level 8 manager of the city of Toronto. So every other level 8 manager, you have the same responsibility.
Absolutely.
And then I see people like, oh, I'm a level 8, I'm not black. Maybe I need to do something about this, right? So it's that allyship piece that we need to talk to. So just my particular opinion, yeah?
Okay. All right. Do you want to jump in?
I may respond to your first question.
Yeah.
I do believe, as you said, this is a time for really to create allies, to make allies. When I watch what happened with George Floyd, it made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
Really. And the other day, my daughter, my wife and I, we had a conversation. So my daughter really made a statement, Daddy, we are not white. I said, explain it. She says, no, we are not Anglo-white. We're different white.
Yeah.
My heart is more like black heart. I am more emotional. I love this. So, and you do have allies there. Maybe in people of white collar that feels with you, that sympathize with you, they're willing to work.
Yeah.
Maybe you can use some of them and together break the system, because as you said, the system is there.
Yeah.
Some of you made it, but maybe for me it's easier to get into one office than maybe you, because of, there is racial and there is profile out there.
Absolutely.
So this is the time that number of us is sick to our stomach. We're watching and looking this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be silent. Because I remember what Martin Luther said, that at the end, what we remember are not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. when I saw what is happening in U.S. and even here in this Western society, I miss communism, to be honest.
Wow.
In communism, we're all equal. There are no racial differences.
Yeah.
There are different differences, okay? Don't get me wrong. If you don't think the same way, you're going to end up in jail.
Yes.
My dad is a pastor who ended up in the jail, okay? And so there are different crises over there. But I do believe what right now, what we can learn from communism is we didn't allow to go and make marches or rallies and this. But we decided to be a salt to the earth. We decided first not to feel victim. Don't allow for Satan to push in the direction of your victim. You'll be stuck. You won't be able to make any changes. You're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
No, don't be victim. You're loved by God. You have the Holy Spirit, your church, your family. You have allies on your side. Stand firm. As you said, try to see where you want to go.
Yeah.
And go it. But first be. What we did, Adventist Church back home in Yugoslavia, we decided to be the best people. We decided to be best in the school, to be the healthiest,
Yeah.
to be the best in sport, everywhere the best.
Yeah.
And very soon, our church became recognized by government, and we started giving some freedom to the
Wow.
evangelistic meetings and this. So just start the way how Jesus wants us to start. Be first, and then make influence whenever you go.
Yeah.
But don't really lose your heart now to be victim and to feel weak. No, because you're strong in the Lord, and God will make you victorious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we're going. No, I'm so glad to get that perspective. No, absolutely. I'm just trying to double check. All right, we're still good. We're still good. Okay. Got it. Jumping around today, folks, but we're going to take a short break, and we will be back right after this. This is UpSurge, where the surge is always up.
Live on UpSurge with our panelists. Real people, real conversation, real questions, real answers, real issues. This is UpSurge, where the surge is always up. Things have been heating up here. I sent Alexi to the chill room. I don't know if she's there yet. It's a long drive there. We're here with our panelists this evening, and they would have already introduced themselves in the first segment. But what I want to ask our panelists. I grew up in a context where I saw folks going to extents to look like somebody else. People spending money on products and stuff just because they weren't comfortable, right? And it dawned on me that this level of prejudice and this level of racism, it affects the individual on the inside. It affects them on the inside. In your fields, pastor catering to the flock, social worker relating to people out there, a lawyer relating with your clients, businesswoman, someone who is so passionate about seeing this change. Do you believe that when someone is discriminated against, do you think what's the impact, or how deep is the impact that this has on the person internally, psychologically, socially? What do you think?
I think unfortunately, none of us actually is a psychiatrist or psychologist, but I think our lived experience will inform us that, because I grew up in St. Vincent, and one of the things that I can never forget is what we call and it might not be a sort of politically correct topic today, but there's a thing called intra-racism, where the blacker you are, there is an attachment to it of being ugly. So wow. I would be considered black and ugly by other black people. So I don't think, and I say that because I don't think it's a question of the white power structure that then invokes racism per se that make people all this different way. I think it's complex. It's a deeply complex issue as to why people wear weaves, why they do this, why they do that, why they want to look differently. I think it's complex. I think it's really complex, and I don't think I am qualified to speak to it. I simply wanted to give you a view from a situation where we are all black. And in human rights law, we talk about colorism. Colorism is also a basis for discrimination that is covered under the Human Rights Code. So if you are the media, for example, I had a young client back before COVID, and she had applied to a well-recognized music corporation, and huge corporation. And what they did, they had her fulfill, it's just shocking, fulfill an advertising profile for a black rapper. They gave her, what it is they needed, and she felt that if she were to complete it, then she would get the job. And the young woman is amazingly bright, dark complexion. And they took her stuff, published it on social media for the guy, the guy they're managing, the rapper who's black. and the managers are white at this huge firm. And they decided after to give it to a fairer skinned black woman. It's shocking.
Wow.
It's shocking. So it's complex.
Yeah. Pastor.
So the thing is that Thank you. I'm thinking as a pastor, as a minister of gospel. So I follow Jesus' model. When he started his ministry, he introduced that first he's going to bring a good news to the poor, right? So I think first on that level, when I talk one-on-one, my job is first to extend that good news to a person.
Yes.
The person will feel saved, feel loved by God. And then the next, Jesus says that then he's going to heal brokenhearted. And then of course the pain is there. When you're exposed to systematic racism, then of course you feel pain, anger. You don't know where to go. And yes, some of us, they use this as a motivational, right, to become somebody in life. But some are stuck in life because of that. So yes, you need to provide a healing. You need to do a listening. You need to be there, some mentoring. And then the next step, according to Jesus' message, is that now you're going to proclaim the freedom, the liberty. And yes, person needs to understand, I'm free. Mm-hmm. You cannot allow somebody else to make you continue to be a slave. No, you're free. And then the next stage after that is going to be that you are now going to be engaged now to leave the prison of pain, the prison of anger. So I really believe that there is a time, intentionality, and lots of prayer. And I believe only Jesus can do that.
Change the heart.
Change the heart, empower, and then to giving you direction.
Yeah. I take you, Pauline. We have to get to the children, but I take you, then I quickly take your point. Okay, go ahead, Pauline.
Yeah, this is dear to my heart.
Okay.
Right, and being a social science major, you know, PE in social science, that's where I started. That's why I became a business. I did my business studies. But I always feel very proud to be a black woman. I'm no pastor, you get it. So always a part of the movement from I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Right? Went to Michael Teachers College, which is now university, and it was all that. And then came here, went to York, only two of another person from Africa. We were the only two in.
And you stood up, you spoke.
And I've always been, you know, like racism is there, but I think
So you never felt. I know you're going somewhere. You're going to hit something home, but I want to ask you something on a personal level, right? You went to Michael Teachers College. That's in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm. Came straight.
You did well. You came here. Then you came into a context with white people, in a place with white people. Did you ever feel at any time that, hey, I need to look like these people, to feel special?
I think people treat you the way you treat yourself.
Wow, that's
so
deep. That's deep. I'm not cutting you off, Pauline. I'm not cutting you off. Viewers, people say that again.
People treat you the way you treat yourself.
People treat you the way you treat yourself. On that positive and profound note, we go to the chill room. I can't hear anybody there. Lexi?
Hello?
Lexi,
Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No.
Oh no.
I'm hearing you vaguely,
can you hear me now?
not clearly.
Can you hear me now?
It's a little bit better.
A little bit better?
A little bit better.
Awesome.
Okay,
Awesome.
okay. Coming through now.
So here in the chill room, we've been chatting about our experiences with racism, colorism. We've been talking about high school experiences. We talked about that a little bit. Ayana and I went to the same high school. Jadeja was telling me a little bit about her experience, so I'm just going to pass the mic around and we'll do a little chat.
So a personal experience that I had actually experienced when I was younger, moved out to Hamilton area, watered down, and I actually went to an all-white school. Mm-hmm. And that was interesting. I think for any child going to a new school, it's difficult to kind of, start and then fit in. But of course, me being different, it was a bit more difficult and it took longer. I experienced some. I wouldn't say I experienced anything too like adverse that really left like a lasting negative effect on me. But
Okay, what about microaggressions though?
Like couple feet away from me, girls whispering while I was right there in front of my face.
We talked about touching the hair. And stuff.
Touching the hair. Even when the teacher would like address. Like of course they wanted to make me feel welcome, but when they would sit down and address to the class, okay, class, we need to make sure that we're treating everyone well. We need to make sure that we're treating people who are different. We need to be respectful. And while that was great, it was awkward.
You felt singled out.
Yeah. So some of my experiences there.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys.
So Kamoy, your situation's a little bit different. We talked about this. You came to Canada after high school.
Yes.
So you were surrounded by predominantly Black people, right?
Only Black people.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about how that made your experience different.
So the idea of racism, when I started university, that's when it popped up.
Wow.
American politics is entertaining. And that's where the multiple terminologies popped up. So
yeah.
I guess for me personally, my experience was I wasn't worried about racism.
Yeah.
But I guess what one of our brothers said on the panel, he said something about intra-racism or something like that. I think that's what we'd call colorism.
Yeah.
That's always been a thing in Jamaica.
Absolutely.
So there was that assumption where the darker you are, the uglier you are.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't personally affected by that.
Yeah.
But I think it's more of a media influence and less of a systemic issue.
Absolutely.
I felt it was a big problem in the media.
Thank you. And we'll jump to Ayana.
So it's kind of just to build on the whole colorism aspect. And I just want to disclaimer, I am Jamaican descent or of Jamaican heritage. I'm also of African American heritage. So I definitely understand the idea and the real life aspects of colorism, being a light-skinned female, right? As a child, that whole idea of white passing, right? I used to beg my mom to perm my hair, beg, because in my eyes, that was kind of like one of the features that defined me as Afro-Caribbean or Afro-American, right? So for me, I was just I want to be different, right? Trying to assimilate, because again, I was a competitive swimmer. I went to schools in the suburbs, it was in a French immersion school. So it's you have the few Black students and the few Black influences, and it's you're trying your best to just fit in as a child. Yeah. So again, there was a lot of self-loathing. There was a lot of reconstruction. I even see it because I have darker cousins as well. Yeah. So it's some of their parents will be oh, don't stay in the sun too long.
Yeah, just the little comments.
And it's just why? It's part of human biology. It's part of our nature. It's going to happen, and it shouldn't define whether or not someone is treated as an other.
Absolutely.
Know? So
absolutely.
I'm very self-conscious of that stuff for sure. And I'm thankful that my parents took the time to really, instill self-determination in me, or really push the idea that Black is not just
one shade. Yeah.
And it's very multifaceted as well.
Absolutely.
So again, now I know back in the day I used to be I'm part this, part no, I'm Black. At the end of the day,
I'm Black and I'm proud.
Black and I'm proud.
There
and
you
when
go.
I'm here in North America or anywhere else in the world besides Africa, Black is Black. They're gonna see me the same way.
Absolutely.
Well, okay.
Yeah. We know what you mean. So, Pastor D, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. I think we've got one question for the panel. Kamoy, you want to throw that out there?
So it's been said that there is a glass ceiling in society. So my question is really on power. At what point or how far do you think an individual can go, or how much power do you think an individual can gain in society as a black person?
Okay. Thank you, Lexi. Okay. All right. So we heard the question. We're on a point, then we're going to go into that question. So finish up the point you were making, and then go into the other question.
Yeah, I must clarify that most times is how you treat yourself. With me, I'm a dominant person about self-respect and self-dignity as a black female, Christian female. So that is important to me. So I'm coming out of the box first. I'm not going to sit down and let you form your opinion to make me feel less than me. The way I step out of the block, you know that I feel good about myself. Right, Osborne?
Yes, indeed.
And we cannot sit back and let them define us. We have to step out with confidence because we know who we are. And so I believe, and just how I shape my family, my kids go to Christian school. It's a safe place for them. I know the teachers, and I'm not saying that Seventh-day Adventist schools are the best, but I know even a friend of mine, Judge Tullow, right, at my, I remember at my opening of my nursing home, he was there. He saw my son and some of the teachers from my school, because in the Seventh-day Adventist world,
that's a strong plug here for Christian education.
Yeah.
Christian education.
People are close, so they take care of your kids. And for my jewel, I need to know that the people I have around them are advocating on their behalf.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you touch a hair from one of my kids' head, you're going to be told about it. All the teachers, they know, at Crawford, right up to last year when my son did his master's, they know me. You have to advocate from the child, especially if it's a girl. Well, both ways. The girls, you got to make sure that they know that they're beautiful. That beauty comes in different ways. Whatever God designed you in His image. Why are you changing your nose and changing your teeth and changing your? You know what? No.
You're special. God made you special.
And we have to start that.
And we have to put that. Yeah.
But I don't think we're doing that at home, because here the parents are saying, "Oh, don't stay in the sun. Oh, no. Take the time to do the kids here.
Yeah.
Do the 3 hours, because there's beauty in that here. Right?
So with that said,
how we treat our kids from home.
That's true.
That's why right now I push for entrepreneurship. I love my girl down there, Michaela, because she's not stopping.
Yeah.
She's staying in our business, because I don't want to know that even though I spend a lot of money to get my kids educated, that they have to stand in line for a job, even though I know all the big wigs in corporate Canada.
So you're saying
you're saying the pathway for your children. Give them the money. Take the money out of your homes and give them to go run their business. Let them do it now than waiting to get
She's on fire.
The estate.
Thank you, Pauline.
Give the young people money.
That's right.
Guide their path. Protect them.
Okay. Let's know what that is solid, that's profound. So now, what the chill room, you answered for the most part the question from the chill room. But how much? So we are empowered. Move forward. You're special. You instill this in your children. Do you believe that when this is done, this will catch a fire and everybody around will feel special and infuse that hope? You think it's possible? You think it's possible? You think it's possible? Possible job?
I'm not sure if I understood the question, but I want to answer the question from the youth. And I'm going to answer from as a blossoming pastor, maybe not, but from the biblical perspective. Mm-hmm. To what you do to the least of these. So the question was, is there a glass season? Is there a glass level? How far could black people go? I only go as far as the least of us do. So I have a great job. I got 2 cars, 2 houses. My kids are doing okay. They're going to make it to university. My kid's going to be in RCMP. My daughter's going to be a teacher, and my son's going to be a dentist. Their choice. But if their friends are in jail, running from the cops, can't make it make sense, I've only done so good. So my kids, plus, as my mom would say, When the police showed up at our house one day to try to arrest one of my friends, there was 30 of us there. My mom said, "You're not allowed on my driveway." And the cop said, "So which one of these kids are your kids?" And she said, "Every one of them.
Wow.
They're all my children."
Wow.
So he was confused. He was like, to the hair on the back of the neck, he's like, "I don't know which one is actually legitimately one of these ladies' kids." But all of my friends, up until I saw one of them the other day at a rally, they remembered that moment.
Wow.
So she took it upon herself that every child that she saw was hers and said, "We have to make it." But I think the question that they asked was, is there a glass ceiling? Yes, because we have to say right now that we're not talking about individualized glass ceiling. We're talking about systemic racism, and we're talking about a system that was built, as my sister said, before we got here, that was going to go against the least of the system. At that time, that wasn't black people, but it was the least of the system. Us coming here with the least amount of power, fighting colonialism, fighting colorism, fighting all the other isms, we have taken on the seat of the least in this society. So we have to fight harder, more. You know, you heard that 2 steps behind stuff that my parents taught me and all the other folks that were born here. So I think we have to really take it, Pastor, that it was a privilege that you were born in a space that everyone looked like you and came here. For me, I was alone. My mom was sitting there saying, "Don't talk to this person, don't do this, watch out for this," because she was trying to figure out the system for herself and her children. What I learned was, I'm actually not much behind most of these folks. I'm not behind most of these folks. But their dad owns the business on the corner, so he doesn't have to worry about a job. And my friend, who's fooling around in school, his construction daddy said, come, I got a $70,000 job ready for you. All my mom could do was say, "Licks if you don't go to school. Licks if you don't finish university. Licks if..." So she knew, if I don't get this guy to that finish line, I don't have anything to give to him. But now, and she said it to me this morning, when she looks at her 4 children, all 4 of them have stuff to give to her grandchildren. So she's done her job. She didn't give them anything, and she's still like, "Okay, I'm good. You guys are going to take care of me till I get old." But she made sure the baton was passed on with enough to pass to the next generation. So I think that the question from the chill room, there's no glass ceiling, but if you're not looking to move the community, then there is one for the next person. Maybe not for you, but for the next person. Yeah.
I have to get this question in. Time is pressing. Time is pressing on us, but I have to get this question in. I heard a preacher. I was listening to a sermon from a preacher the other day, and the preacher said this. He said, a black preacher, he said that he's not into talking about this social justice thing and speaking out against this kind of social justice thing because Jesus says that his kingdom is not of this world. and I said to myself, wow, it's just amazing how theologians sometimes interpret scripture. The question that I have, the question is this: does the church have a responsibility to address this issue? Yeah, okay. Yes.
Me too.
Okay.
Because I love to answer because after this, I call it an uprising. After the uprising began, and being in the trenches since I came to this country, and I came to Toronto back in the 80s, I know the history of the civil rights movement in the U.S. I am aware of it, I'm sensitive to it. And what I know is that the church took the lead back then.
Mm-hmm.
And my refrain, I pain over this, that since I've been in Toronto, I don't see that church is doing anything at all. So when this uprising began, I know a lot of pastors. I'm a lawyer. They call me to do this or that, so I know a ton of pastors in Toronto. I know the guy who's the head of the black clergy in Ontario. And so I penned an email to about 5 of them, begging them that we need to move the pulpit into the public sphere, where we can then galvanize folks, talk about social justice, talk about the fact that we need to vote, talk about we need to change the judiciary. That's where I locate. I locate in a space where there are no black people. You know, we come as litigants, but we don't have diversity. We have 4 judges in the Superior Court of Justice in a space of 360, 370 of them. Federal Court, we have no black judges. Tax Court, we have no black judges. So
none.
And these are spaces where where the federal government, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, talk about systemic racism on Julie level, that it exists in every system in this country, and he's the employer of these courts, and we have nothing ongoing. So I wrote a follow-up email last week. That's why, you hit me right in the heart when you talk about, is there space for churches to move the conversation?
Switch.
No.
The same as switch.
And I believe, thank you so much, I believe that churches need to take the baton.
No, that was good.
Churches need to take the baton and run with it, because
I know. We're good. Keep going, sir. Amen.
They need to take the baton and run with it, because too often they're locating the buildings. We need to go on the streets and do more.
Talk.
So that's my 10 cents.
It's the gospel. Okay. Pauline, Jabari, you have something to say on this? And the preacher will have the last say on this question here.
The church came out of protest, right? Martin Luther, is it 1517 or 1571? When he was fed up with Catholicism, he protested. That's why Adventism falls under Protestant churches, right? So, especially our church, I could not understand why we would even think that we don't have a place to talk about social justice. When Martin Luther King was put in jail during the civil rights movement, when he penned the first letter when he was in prison, who did he pen the letter to? The clergy. The clergy. So when the church is sitting back and say, okay, I go to church because it has to make sense, right? Because I was born in the church, but I had some issues because I was always a thinker. I just don't adopt. It has to make sense. The minute I realized that the church was a part of who I am, you don't have to tell me to stay in the church. But I had to realize it through some serious sitting at the knees of some serious American preacher brothers who let me understood what the Seventh-day Adventism is all about, right? You have to understand it. So if the church serves a purpose, and I believe in social evangelism, if the church serves a purpose in people's lives, you think we would have to be begging people to come to the church?
Yeah.
We wouldn't be begging people. So we have to take the church into the community, because one last point, we're here, we talk about, we are pro-life, right? And we say the child has justice in the womb, right? But then when it comes on to people, we don't think that we should have people, there should be justice to the tomb, but it's justice in the womb.
Good point.
But not justice to the tomb, right? So here we are being relevant, saying, oh yeah, but we don't care about the people. We don't care about the poor kids who can't afford school fees. We don't care about what's going on here today. The church needs to get out there, and the moment they start to look at social justice issues, is the more the benches will be filled.
Thanks, Pauline. I give you a minute, Jabari.
1 minute. So I just want to make sure this is working before I say anything. Yes, it's on now, so we're good. Pastor, what you heard from that pastor was a particular position from people who also say black people need to work harder. It's not about racism. They say, oh, there's no actual discrimination out there because I worked hard, look at me. Though that's the same argument. So then that person is now saying, I'm not going to talk about social justice because that's not a real thing. All of those arguments, there's a particular philosophical way, I can't remember the name of it. It's, if you want to just Google that kind of...
Call it selfishness.
No, I'll call it black conservatism, but that's a different argument altogether. So at the end of the day, that I can work harder mentality permeates a lot of different places, and in the church, that's what it looks like. Oh, don't talk about that, talk about Jesus' redemption, and we'll be okay, splash some Bible water on some folks, and we'll get over this racism thing. It's not a real thing. So you got to be careful when you hear that, because the next thing you're going to tell you is, as a black man, racism doesn't exist, just work harder.
Wow. Preacher.
So racism exists as long as sin exists here, so we are here, the evil is around us, so yes, the social justice is relevant.
Because it's sinful.
It's because it's sinful, and Satan is still very active. He's a lion going around and trying to devour. So let me go back to, as a church, yes, we do have to be involved, and but the Jesus Christ way. So we are part of the movement, and I try to remind us that we are not just a church. We are a movement, and we have a message. The message, yes, is hard, but Jesus is coming soon. I believe we do have the right message for this time. We do have the right message for brokenhearted. And we need to use the Christ method. He mingled with people. He sympathized with people. So he discovered all these systematic racism out there, and ethnocentrism, and all these different schisms, okay? And then he earned their trust. How did he earn their trust? By doing something for them. By addressing these issues.
Doing something for them.
Doing something. I am tired of just talking about things. When you talk, you just sympathize. But when you do something, you earn their trust. Before we can go and say something, before we can make a statement, really, we need to earn integrity.
Do something.
So that's what we do, President and myself, when we... First thing when we experience all these, see these TV messages or TV commercials, not commercials, but just video clips from US. We close our door, we sit down, we said, what are we going to do? What we said, yes, we are in financial crisis, but we went to Treasurer's office.
You being the secretary of the conference, you're like next in line, next in charge,
I'm
second in command. So you're the president, as you saw it, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, the president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Ontario, Canada, and his immediate assistant, his secretary, locked the door and
we prayed, we talked. He was president, he was so emotional, and we prayed together. We went to Vereen, to Treasurer. He says, we need to do something. And I remember two of us, we sat first, and then we stood in my office, and then at the end, we give 5 to each other because he got it. We're going to do something about it, but we need money. You see, we went to Treasurer and said, please find us somewhere $100,000.
Wow.
What we want to empower our churches to start programs, to do something, to be in community, then to earn integrity, so then we can go and speak about issues.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. This has been a very wonderful experience here. We are going to go back to the chill room for the last time, and then we wrap things up. Lexi, are you there?
Yes, we are. We're here.
Loud and clear.
In the chill room. You hear me?
Sure I can.
Awesome, awesome. So we've been listening into the panel conversation. You got us all excited. We've been chatting here. I'm just going to throw the mic to Ayana because she was talking about, we're talking about occupying every lane, right? That's what we were talking about. Yeah. Surprised. Go for it.
I think the biggest thing that a lot of us are taking away from at this particular moment is that I always like to talk about like our history and like our ancestors in the sense that like the people that came before us when it came to this movement of civil rights and civil liberties, if we want to call it that, or freedom. And it's like that whole idea that like we have to literally occupy every lane at this point, right? There's you're gonna have to have those people that again separate themselves from the system because they can't do it anymore and it's going to break their spirit. So it's a matter of them like developing economy or whatever it might be outside of the
we
system.
talked about this. So, like, you know, having people, you need your judges, you need your lawyers, you need your doctors, you need we need people in every lane.
Yeah, because essentially, like, this system will not break until we are there to break it.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Just to go off of what you're saying, I agree. And it's also about, and going back to our ancestors, we were brought over here and we're the ones that built this society on stolen land, but we're the ones that built the society.
Mm-hmm.
And it cannot function without us at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot function without the people who are oppressed. And as soon as we rip that little carpet from underneath them, it's going to crumble.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely about us occupying every lane, us creating our own banking systems, especially as well, because our money, the things we can do with our money is
the black
so
dollar
amazing.
is powerful.
Exactly. It's so amazing. It's so powerful. It's just a matter of all of us coming together as a community and investing it into ourselves. We're so focused on investing it into this system and the things that it produces, and it benefits off of us.
Yeah.
So we just need to make sure that we come together as a community, as one, and invest our money in where it matters, which is us, and create a better community for ourselves and our children.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kenzie, you were talking a little bit about, we were talking about medicine, right?
Right. I was saying it is so important, especially with everything that's going on right now, especially with COVID-19. The medical field is somewhere that we have to look, and we really need to consider the fact that there are racist people in these fields. And
Absolutely.
these are people's lives that are at stake because, you know, we're born into this beautiful skin and it's used against us. And when that happens, you need people of the same color in fields like this so people aren't losing their lives and people aren't losing their family members, because I mean, that's the most painful thing. You go in to get help and you're not getting help because of the way that you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's why I really wanted to talk about that. It's really important.
Yeah, no, bounce it back.
And like the whole idea of money, that's another thing to tackle as well, because again, it's a matter of recognizing what this system has in place and recognizing the things that I guess they value in this system. Again, like, it's not all about the money, and it's never been about the money. We just want to be treated as
respect.
humans should be treated.
Yeah.
So again, we have to look at the processes to go about getting that fair treatment. But again, it's never about just the money, because at the end of the day, you know, money has its own issues in itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, we do this because we need to do it. It's not about like the dollar amount that we're trying to receive for it.
And we talked a little bit about the fact that we started the conversation. We shook the table, right? Ever since George Floyd, we've been shaking the table. We've been having those hard conversations. So what do we do next? Where do we go next? We shook the table, like it's off balance now, right? So I guess the question we have for our panel would be, where do we go next? We shook the table. We, as Pauline said, the dial's been moved. You know what I mean? Now we can't just say, oh, it doesn't happen here in Canada. No, we talked about the fact that it has. In the past month, we talked about the fact that it has. So where do we go from here? Where do our young people hop in? Where do we start making the changes? How do we start making the changes? And how do we go about it in a way that we're not risking our freedom against the system that would easily oppress us? It's all so convoluted. I don't know if you guys want to hop in on that before we bounce back to Pastor. I asked so many questions, Pastor D. I know I feel like you're confused. I asked so many questions. But I guess the biggest question would be, where do we go from here?
Thank you, Lexi. Thank you. And we have taken note of that question. We are wrapping up now. We are 2 minutes to the hour. So, in one sentence, I'm asking the panel to answer that question. And also, I'll give you 2 sentences. Give us a message of hope. So where do we go next? And a sentence that speaks life, that speaks hope. I'll start with you, Pauline.
I believe the faith community should rise up and be the author of the narrative against racism. The outcome of your narrative will depend on who is the author, who's writing it. We have to be the writer. And that wherever we are, we should be agents of change, and we should effect change. And my theme on Facebook, I have close to 4,000 on Facebook, it's don't drop it while it's hot. Push it, don't stop.
Pauline has said, I agree with her, but as a lawyer, my push has always been this issue of if we are going to push change, and that change, is then translated into law through legislation, it would mean zero if the diversity of the bench, the judiciary, is not there. If we do not see people who look like us judging us. This goes to the criminal justice system, it goes to the civil system. And so I am really, really hopeful because, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says that he's going to change things, that we will see more people like us on the bench, because I believe that's where the change for me in terms of people's lives, the people that I serve in my client pool, that's when things are going to change for them.
Thank you. Elder Jabari.
To answer the question, where do we go next? I think we don't forget where we came from. But, you've heard the analogy of your car has a super huge window to look forward and a little one to look backwards. So you use the little one to remember. Alexi, I say this directly to you. I've made a career spending my time with respectfully elders who have been through all of this before and just listening to them, because this is not the first time, this is not the first shake at the table, and this is not the first George Floyd. So I think people have kind of been through this, so I like to listen. My message of hope, I guess, I've been at the city 11 years now. We're about to start a black staff network. There's over 20,000 black staff. They're all being connected. We have a call with the mayor 2 weeks ago. We have a call with the city manager next week. We have a call within my division to start an actual network of people. So my hope is that you will be, to just take something from what I heard, again, listening, be the best. That's it. So if you are striving to be the best at whatever you are, and you don't forget where you came from, the hope is that you're always going to be in the right space. That's it.
Pastor Yaakov.
Message of hope for life. I'll go back to Bible, and John says that who has the Son of God has life. It's not just eternal life. You have life here. So make sure that your relationship with Christ is serious. That you can say, I have Jesus in my life. You can always say that. And then he will bring a healing. He will make you victorious. And he will make you to be agent of change. That's what he wants his church to be. Agents of change. To be the light of the world and to be the salt of the earth.
Praise God. Praise God. Thank you so much, panelists, for taking the time to share with us this evening on UpSurge. We really, really appreciate what you shared with us this evening, and may God continue to bless you all. I want to thank Lexi.
It's good to be here.
Thank Lexi in the chill room. It was such a wonderful experience talking with each other this evening. Next week, we won't be here as our conference will be hosting our camp meeting. So we will be tuning into the conference's camp meeting, but we'll be here the following weekend with UpSurge, where again we will experience real people, real conversations, real issues, real questions, real answers. UpSurge, where the surge is always up. It's a wrap. We're out.